our little mate DCE.
Yep.
Gave you a bit of a spray in the group chat afterwards, which I really enjoyed. So
yeah, you fucking poked the bear with that. this dickhead, because we're in a group chat with Ches and a few of the old Manly boys, and he gets straight after we finish the show, he goes, "Oh, Scope picked the fucking."
But you did. Well, you did.
But this is for this show. But where do I put my money? I gotta watch. I'm a live better. I seen the boys were flowing. That's what I want a bit of fat on it.
I should have tagged Fozzie too. YKTR Sports Nation, welcome back to the greatest podcast this side of Mars. As always, joined by Skipper Scope, and we are in the Body Science Content Studio. The boys from BSC have just dropped a new mousse as well, so you can get this from Chemist Warehouse, available nationwide. This podcast is brought to you by Steady Freddy. Get 15% off with the code YKTR15 for a better fucking world. New ad read here, so pay attention. Boys, on the show we speak about champions a lot and we try to pick who comes first. I know where this ad read's going. But in the bedroom, champions don't come first. Steady Freddy is a doctor-formulated delay spray that helps guys last longer in bed. Look, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. Premature ejaculation happens to 1 in 3 guys. So it's me, you, and Lukey. Who's it happening to?
Yeah, me. Yeah, I'm bad.
Yeah, I'm not. Maybe 3 out of 3 in this. Oh,
hey,
Lukey got a start last night, so... they've released a multivitamin specifically for male sexual health called Ball Boost as well. So guys, go check it out, steadyfreddy.com. Use the code YKTR15 for 15% off your first order. That's steadyfreddy.com and use the code YKTR15.
It's like my golf game. I'm awful on my first attempt, but then once I start to get into it, third, I'm awful when
You got a back-to-back in you?
No, I don't have the stamina.
What about on
the
I
was going to go stamina. On the piss? Yeah, I'm good on the piss.
Yeah, everyone's good on the piss.
Yeah, you get a bit of Dutch courage, you're all good.
Is that what it's called, Dutch courage?
I think so, yeah. Dutch courage is the term that you fucking start feeling yourself a little bit, go talk to girls.
You start whispering a bunch of shit, eh?
Talk a bit of shit in the bedroom too. Talk a little bit.
Think you're sexy as, eh?
Yeah, think you're killing it.
All right, guys, we're rolling into the show. 3 of the best interesting topics happening in around the league right now. KP obviously walked off the press conference show with his Adam O'Brien. What's your take on that?
Well, they were just drumming it down. They just kept on asking the same question in different ways to try and get a response out of him. At the end of the day, I thought Adam O'Brien handled it pretty well. I thought what he said was pretty spot on. They want to give KP every opportunity because that's what the contract allows. The position that they were in, I've seen some people have come out and said Knights never should have got themselves in this position to give KP this sort of amount of power. Maybe KP doesn't sign the contract originally if it doesn't come down to this. So they've got to keep KP for an extra year or two maybe than what they would have. Adam O'Brien is saying all the right things. KP is saying all the right things by not saying anything. It doesn't do him any good to talk about potentially leaving or guaranteeing staying. I've seen this before in other sports where, we always revert back to NBA, I feel like, because we're big NBA fans, but like players being vilified, Kevin Durant saying they're happy they'll fucking spend the rest of their career, or talking about staying at Miami and winning 6 NBA championships, LeBron, and then moving on. And that's when haters will come out. And so you never give too much. There's no reason for KP to give too much. He's had a meeting. He said he had a meeting with Wayne Bennett. He's able to discuss his future with Wayne. He obviously wants to see what Wayne is building, potentially what we talked about, who else is coming, I think would be a big part of that. So KP's just doing what KP should be doing. And I don't have a problem with the journalists asking the questions as well. They're paid to come up with stories and they want to get the answers, and then therefore it gets people reading their columns and their newspapers. So it is what it is. That's just the nature of where we're at these days.
Yeah, he's just got to explore all his options, and obviously everything's documented now. And obviously our next topic talks about what's been said on field and stuff like that. But I'm with you. I think he's handled it well. It does suck for Newcastle fans if someone of KP's caliber, stature, marketing potential is going to potentially leave, and that leaves a big gap in it. But it sort of reminds me of when Hainsey left for the NFL, and you're like, Hainsey's gone, Parramatta going to go down the hill.
Fair point, yep.
Everyone just kind of stood up and took on a bigger role. And there was a couple games this year where they didn't have KP and they still looked all right.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't sign a 1.2, 1.5 extension with Newcastle, it allows you to buy some pretty decent players. You could buy 3 really good players with that type of money. So
that's a good point. And considering, like we said, they did a good job while KP was out for a couple of those games at the start of the season. And if it comes down to management, roster management at the end of the day. If they end up losing KP and he moves on, it'll be a big loss because not only, I think people like your average fan, there are some fans that just watch and go purely footy. You know, this is what we're all about. But clubs these days are aware of brand awareness and what they provide off the field and what they provide for recruitment as well for players wanting to play with a guy like KP because he's likable, he's a good lad, he plays Origin and all that sort of stuff. So all those things factor into it. But in saying that, you're right. At the start of the season, I thought, fuck, it's the end of the world if they lose KP. The more I start to think about it, like if they do a good job of roster management and they maybe sign probably 2 decent players, I'd say.
Yeah, 2's probably better than 3. With that type of money, 2 guys on 600, you can get some pretty good players there. You get a really good fullback and you can get a really good half.
Yeah, for sure. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting. All right, second topic, Marcelo Montoya cops a 4-match ban after using the F word on the field. What's your thoughts on this game?
Oh, was it 100% the F word?
Yeah, I caught him.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, I think he's admitted to it as well.
Oh,
so,
okay,
yeah.
Sweet. Fuck. Like, obviously, in this day and age, it's not like...
You can't say that.
You can't say it, but...
Is it extensive?
There's been some ruthless shit that's been said to me or that I've heard on the footy field over during my years of playing, so... I don't know. What do you say? I'm a bit on the fence with this. So.
I do think it is a little bit extensive, but then I was thinking of the other side. Like, I just want to preface this. Like, we're both like, none of us are homophobes.
Yeah,
obviously
no.
We like, if your sexual preference is with another man, we want you to be happy. But I do think it is a little bit like 4 weeks, bro. So you think Mitch Barnett got a 6-weeker for elbowing someone in the head?
Well, that's where I'm conflicted with it all.
Here's an interesting side. So when I first heard it, my first reaction was like, bro, that's excessive as. But that's because we've never had to deal with that type of like slur, because it doesn't affect us in any way, shape or form. And I'm sure it doesn't affect Kyle Feldt in any way, shape or form. But here's the other side of it. If someone had said something racist.
Well, that's my point. And
is this where you were going?
Yeah, this is where I was going. And I've got to word this right. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I grew up playing in Western Sydney. And our team were full of Islanders. And we used to play teams that were predominantly white players. So I've been on the end of playing with Samoan and guys and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know if it fucking makes it right, but they were my teammates. But that was the culture growing up back then. I hope it's changed because, obviously it's not right. But I heard it growing up where boys were called like, monkey and the N-word when we were younger, and especially like even Islander boys like Fobbo was a bit derogatory,
yeah, it is, yeah.
But like with the boys, some of the boys like would say that to each other, So when we were growing up, I'd sort of become numb to it, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because it probably affected my teammates more than it affected me, obviously, being a Kiwi guy. I never really felt that, being a Kiwi over here.
I'm similar to you, like where I'm half caste as well. So like even if I did get caught, like it didn't really affect me as much, but then I've hung out with like, obviously Chico's my best friend and we've been in circumstances where he's been called black and I've seen the effects of that and how it affects him. So when I'm like, we can't go, all right, you can't call someone the F word, but we're standing up for racism as well.
That's true.
Like I do get both sides of that. So and I've seen how much it affects Chico and I get fucking angry at it and like they've been in fights over racism as well. So if someone said something negative, racist and they cop 4 weeks, I'd be sitting there going, you know what, you fucking deserve that. But now it's something that doesn't personally affect us and we're going, oh, that's a little bit extensive. I see both sides of it as well.
Well, using that word in particular, if the guy who was directing it, obviously,
I think
it was Pet. I think it was Pet, right?
No, it's Kyle Feldt.
Oh, was it Kyle Feldt? I believe Kyle Felt's not gay. I think it was just like he was just trying to throw. He just had word vomit.
Yeah,
that's what I think's happened, and he's come out with maybe something that he's probably said before in his past that it's like
everyone needs to say stuff like that.
Exactly, and he's just splurted it out and probably didn't mean it. Maybe if Kyle Feldt was gay, I might be looking at this a little bit differently as well because I think there's some fucking meaning to that, and he's having a proper crack at his lifestyle. But I think he's just had a bit of word vomit. 4 games is a bit much for me.
Okay,
But I don't know.
But if someone,
I don't know. It's so.
yeah, it is.
Where do I go? Like, where do you go with it? Do you go to 2? Like you said, Mitchie Barnett got 6 weeks, did he, for elbowing someone in the face? There have been hits that a guy shoulder barged a guy in the face and got a week.
Yeah,
and then there's I don't know. It's a tough one. It's not an easy answer, to be fair.
No, and I think NRL is just trying to draw a line in the sand, and a lot of guys will look at that 4-match ban and go, yeah, do you know what, I'm probably not going to say it on the field, which you shouldn't anyway.
Well, there you go. Then that could be a good thing moving forward anyway. So 4 weeks, if it just stops it moving forward, those sorts of words, then
all right,
it's worked.
Here's the next question. Can you still call a prop fat on the field? Or are you body shaming? And props aren't really that fat anymore. They're kind of like ripped up now, aren't they?
Some
but
of the boys like being called a mutters. Yeah, you're right. I know where you're going with this though. You're talking about starts opening it up.
I run the ball, step, boom. Someone prop jams me, lands on top of me, back on the ground, back in the day. Like, get off me, you fat fuck.
Yeah. See,
and then that gets picked up on the mic. But that's just funny, isn't it? Because you just dominated a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I can see where you're going with the body shame and stuff.
Are we getting that sensitive? I think so.
Maybe in a few years you could be right. Like that could be we could be having that discussion about that. So I don't know.
All right, last one. Weird weekend. A bunch of streakers and pitch invaders stole the headlines over the weekend. Obviously, you got your opinions on this, and so do I. Obviously, 2 different genders, 2 different scenarios. I think one has got 3 months in prison. Is that correct?
Yeah, with the guy with the flares who come onto the Sharks game, Lukey. Yeah, they're protesting global warming, climate change.
Oh, so they've got previous offences, they've added up, and now he's copping the 3 month.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, fair enough.
Yep, 6 again.
And obviously the girl, I saw that as lighthearted and fun, and she got tackled and she wore it and come out and said...
Awesome from her.
Yeah. And like, that's fine. And obviously you don't want people jumping on pitches all the time. But I looked at that moment in the sport, go, hey, that's footy, that's fun.
Yeah, and don't, like I've seen the Titans have talked about vilifying the security guard.
Saying he was heavy-handed.
The guy... To be fair, whether he did it to a girl or a guy, at the end of the day, his job is to protect the players. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm being a bit, old school. I don't know, being a bit of a narc with this. But when I was living in the UK, when I was over there in the English, actually the championship at the time, Jack Grealish was playing for Aston Villa, and he got king hit from a guy who come on who was the opposition fan, and that guy went to jail for fucking I think a year or whatever. But he was the fucking king of that side of it. And obviously hated Jack Grealish because he was a bit of a fucking Larry player. He plays at Man City now, but he used to score. They were rivals. That's the last thing. So when it comes to the player coming on with flair, all we're going to need is for someone to get the shits with an opposing player in a rival game, or even worse, like certain player doesn't score a try, or fucking a fan comes on and does something stupid like that. So the second they tackle the chick, nothing should happen. He's protecting the players. Yeah, most of them, 99% of the time, are going to be a bit of fun, people running on to have a laugh with their mates. But if you do run on the field, you got to know that you could potentially be fucking tackled. And like you said, the chick handled it well, and she said the right thing. So I'm happy that she understood that. And I hope nothing happens to that security guard. Yeah, no, I sort of seen like a bunch of the Fox journos trying to chase the girl up. Like, we want to talk about how heavy, like you were heavy-handed, and she sort of come out and goes, I was in the wrong, and I used to grow up with brothers and playing football, and it was a good tackle. So yeah, but I'm with you. I can sort of see the other side of it. Once a player, or even if they jump on at the wrong time and it affects a play, that's potentially like a game-winning one. Yeah, then that starts to get like a little bit messy. The Origin, Luke, I can see you're already thinking about that. The Origin game, fucking, that affected the back end of that. Stopped the try, didn't it? There was a try that was. Yeah, Matt Scott crossed, and then they had to like replay the try. It didn't matter I don't believe it mattered for the context of the game, but it was close. Yeah. I'm not too sure. Was it a blowout? Can you look that up, Lukey, as we're going? But yeah, we'll come back to that. But yeah, I believe Matt Scott crossed, but I don't think it affected the game too much because Queensland are already winning anyway. I think it was just like a little bit of icing on top sort of try. Geez, the 3 months hurts. That's a bit of a wake-up call. Yeah, if he's a repeat offender, then 3 months. Like, if I can understand, like the warning and a fine for a guy that's just trying to have a laugh with his mates. Yeah, sweet. Whatever. You get tackled, fucking, you got to wear it. But wear the tackle, wear the fine. Can we just keep it to teams that are in like finals contentions as well if we're going to start streaking? Yeah. Tigers game 6 again, but not with the flares. Tigers game's a tough watch as it is, so.
Yeah, a bit of entertainment there. Yeah. All right, Scope, your favourite part of the show, NRLW, Scope's highlight. Shout out to the Roosters getting it done. The comeback queens, Corbin McGregor, fan of YKTR Sports, one of our guests. Scope Spotlight, where we at?
Speaking of chicks that can take a hit and get back up and keep going. NRL Grand Final wrap. Player of the match, Sarah Togatuki. She had 13 carries for 161 metres, 21 tackles, and no misses. She was just unreal through the middle. I thought, in particular, their middle did a really good job for the NRLW Roosters team. I thought the match was marred a little bit by a couple of questionable decisions. Talia Fuimoana getting sent for 10 when the chick who, I believe it was the winger, sorry, I'm having a blank on her name, but the winger for Roosters was coming in, actually looked to have done her knee just before she ran into Talia and dropped her level. And then Talia ended up, because she's a really good hitter too, Talia. Yeah. She's like a brother. She can really hit him. And she sort of hit her with the shoulder, but didn't even follow through because she'd seen the injury happening and like try to pull out, but it was too late. And then the other one, and I'm not saying the Roosters girls didn't deserve it. I think they would have won the game anyway.
Yep.
But it made it a little bit harder for the Dragons when the ref should have stopped the game when the Roosters player was down 10 metres out from the line. The trainer's got his hand up in the air, and you could see a couple of the Dragons girls, I think it was maybe Holly Wheeler was there.
Yep.
She was about to get in the tackle, seen out of the corner of her eye, the blue shirt trainer for the Roosters put his hand in the air. She sort of just pulled out. I think one of the girls dropped off. There was two girls in the tackle to begin with, and one of them dropped off. The other one was trying to wrestle. You could see she was still going, and sort of the nine sort of just broke out and scored the try. I still think the Roosters would have been good enough, but it sort of just put a bit of a dampener on a final, which was a really good season, and the Roosters girls deserve it. But I thought those two incidents in particular sort of just like marred the game a little bit. But massive effort from the NRL Roosters girls. They were out of contention 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
They were relying on point differential to get into it at the time. So they would have been watching, I believe the Parramatta Eels girls were playing maybe the Dragons. Yeah, maybe the Dragons or the Broncos, sorry, the last round. And the Broncos did a number on the Parramatta Eels girls and knocked them out on for and against by like maybe 4 to 6 points.
Power, huh?
And then the Roosters girls get in and win the premiership. So congrats to them, and congrats to Corbin Baxter, who's obviously coming in here. Skipper of the team.
Baby.
Yeah, YKTR.
Yeah, shout out to the NRLW. Really enjoyed the competition this year. And they're coming back this year as well. So that was the 2021 season. They're rolling into 2022. I seen Corbin at the new Roosters Stadium as well. So they're going to be rolling out there. Round 25, Roosters are taking on the Rabbitohs.
Oh, how good.
So that's going to be pretty exciting. Stadium looks sick. So shout out to the girls making some really entertaining football. And looking forward to seeing the game grow over the next couple of years as well.
Yeah,
it's been great to watch.
Unreal. They got a good,
and
really
good to gamble on.
Yeah, it's jammed to me, mate. I didn't get it this time in the final. I was on the Dragons girls and Emma Tonegata, who had an unreal season. But
is she the best in the league? Obviously, you got the Dally M and
there's some good ones, man. There's some good ones. There's some the position for New South Wales fullback this year is going to be it's going to be up there. So it's going to be between her. Baxter she'll find herself a job. I think Body Vetty Welsh for Parramatta was the incumbent fullback for Parramatta. I think she done her knee in the last game against the Broncos. So it would have been interesting seeing what that battle would have been like, because you'd think Jess Surgis and Isabel Kelly will keep the centre spots. Tiana Penatini is thereabouts on the wing. But
she's gone.
There's some because the Queensland team's been just as dominant as the Broncos teams has been in the State of Origin. But I think New South Wales team's looking pretty good this year off the back of what I think Sowi's going in, assistant coach, he said last week.
The Chow. He's good. So very smart footballer.
I'm looking forward to Origin time with the girls as well.
Do you know what I want to see? I want to see the New Zealand Sevens girls start to come over and just play in that 6-week competition. I don't know if it lines up with their world tours and whatever they're doing, but even... Man, I hope it does, because there's some talented girls in that. And obviously in the Sevens Union side, Charlotte Kessler come over and had a crack at it as well.
Yeah.
She's dominant over in Sevens, but there's some Kiwi chicks over there that I'd love to see.
Yeah, for sure. There's some really good girls. Well, because I've been highlighting the NRLW, I've been sent clips of the girls game over in New Zealand, man. There's some girls that can play over there. So I don't know, like if they'd even want to, though, to be fair, but if the competitions could align to build the strongest comp as it is right now. And, back in the day, a lot of NRL and rugby union players,
Yeah.
ARL, they would come over and play union and league. Like I think maybe the game's at that point now for the girls where if you could strengthen all the best girls and put them together for a super competition.
I think that's the way it should be. Like remember back in the day when like someone like Bo Jackson would go play MLB and like baseball and football.
Yeah.
Like they were those dual athletes. And there's a couple guys that could probably do it now, and Kyler Murray and those types of people. I think the women's game where it is right now, if you could get them in between a rugby union and a rugby league season, because a lot of them would have played both growing up, because they would have had like 3 or 4 teams in their hometown that could play. That goes for 8 weeks, and then they'll go play union, and they'll go play touch as well. So, and I grew up in a town where we had heaps of talented chicks coming through. So I'd love to see it cross over and sort of align all the things, because then they won't have to go work.
Yeah.
Like, during in between seasons.
If they got paid for an 8-week comp, had a couple of weeks off and got paid for an 8-week comp at either or systems, and then in this year you can triple up.
And we touched on before where they should be allowed to endorse their own sponsorships and stuff like that as well. So it's kind of like the college model.
And I believe they're getting paid well as much as the men for the Origin this year, aren't they?
Are they?
I think so.
Fucking oath.
I think so. So imagine that, right? You have 8-week comp, roll into Origin, get paid your fucking 25, 30K, and then another 8-week comp at the end of the year or in between, like a union, and the girls could fucking make some cash, man, especially the top tier ones.
Once you hear money, you need to see like Geordie go transgender.
Yeah, he would too.
15K?
There you
Ooh,
go,
that's a nice little
15K.
bonus. And they're not over a lot.
Playing twice.
Ooh.
Oh, 2 games? Oh, so how's it? So it's going to be like the...
If it's a draw, it'd be the
like
last
the Bledisloe system.
Yeah, give them 3.
Yeah, play 3. I'd like to see 3. Yeah.
All right, guys, as we get into preview and review, this podcast is brought to you by EarnU. EarnU is a fun way of combining the world of cryptocurrency, times gambling. Pick your tips for the weekend by joining around and have a chance to win real money. And the best part is you don't lose your money if you go down. Gambling isn't always about making money, but letting people know that your sports knowledge is elite. We've attached a link down below. The first 200 people that sign up get 100 points for free. And use the code 100-100-YKTR. I repeat that code 100-100-YKTR. And I got up last week.
I was going to say you're hiding from the punters now as well, aren't you?
I've been having low key cracks at it, but I put all my money in, and I had 100 points, which you guys could get for free.
Yep.
I ended up winning 545. So my profit was 445. So we'll attach that down below. And the thing I like about this conversion rate, 100%. Got them all right.
You went from 6 from 6, did you?
I didn't bet on every game. I think I stayed away from the couple dodgy ones.
Yeah. Tigers game, you stay away from Tigers game?
Tigers game, and I think it was the Y and Cowboys. That
You're
was
learning.
A little bit iffy.
You're learning. You're listening to me, boss. You're listening to me.
I'm winning crypto, but losing real money. So it is what it is. Guys, use that code 100-100-YKTR.com.au. Review, preview, Raiders versus Cowboys. Raiders performance last week. Exciting news. Xavier Savage comes into the 14 as well.
Cool.
We've been looking forward to seeing him again in the NRL and see where his sort of role was. But Raiders and Cowboys, what were your thoughts on them last week?
Yeah, both pretty similar. I sort of written down as I was watching both. I was like, if they can't really win with the power game, if they don't, a lot of teams are like that. But in particular, the Raiders. When I was looking at them, and they come up against the Melbourne Storm and Manly of late, and both Melbourne Storm and Manly have come out of the blocks and sort of like blown them off the park through the middle, which is a concern because that's a strength of theirs, man. Like Josh Papali'i, Tarps. I think teams are building momentum nicely on the right edge where I've talked about Raiders' right edge, it's questionable, but they're building momentum down that side where Schneider and Corey are defending next to each other, and Velame, and then coming to, I think it's really tiring out the middles. But with the Raiders in particular, I think I was looking at a guy like Jack Whiten, and this is the lesser of two evils. I think Jack's trying too hard. I think off the back of last season, I even have seen him come out after the first game, meant a lot to him. I think it was his 200th game and he had a big game. He said he really wants to be involved more this year. And I'm looking at all the factors that are involved. Like he's got a young half. They brought down Fogarty, and he probably wouldn't have spent much time with working with Schneider in the offseason because Fogarty would have been there, who eventually did his ACL just after the...
No, I don't think he's ACL. I think he's just out for 8 weeks, bro. So,
is he? So
yeah.
he ended up getting injured, but it was after he would have done a fair bit of preseason with Fogarty. And this sort of all flows into...
Hooker goes down.
Also losing Hodgson through the middle, that's where they want to play it, ideally, because Jack Whiten's a runner. And then you lose the experience of having, even though he's in the squad, Jared Croker, who'd spent his entire career with. Just having Croaks as that calming effect. I think White, and this, like I said, this is the lesser of two evils with the player trying to do too much, because you can sort of talk to him about reining that in. I don't know if Sticky's having that conversation, but Jack White just looks like he's trying to do so much at the moment. Him and Elliot Whitehead seem to be overplaying their hand a little bit too much, because in a way they're playing catch-up footy. They've played catch-up footy a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but they always go. They've played a lot better at home this year too. So
Thursday night football too, going up against Cowboys, who were a little bit shaky last week against the Wars.
Yeah.
Obviously got out to a bit of a start. I really enjoyed Scotty Drinkwater at the back. I think he made a difference. Scored a try, ran a bunch of meters. Wonderful. I'm a Scotty Drinkwater fan, so.
Yeah, I like. I like having. You got to have Scotty Drinkwater in the team, don't you? Like in the third, like some of the plays that he was just able, like even with that kick return at the back end of the game. Same thing, man. The Cowboys come out initially, like I was messaging in the group chat. Remember we talked about it on Peanut Butter and Jam last week. I talked about I was going to have a live bet on the Cowboys, and I didn't end up having it in the end because. As well as the Cowboys were going, I've just seen the Warriors were just hanging in there, just completing. I think just before the lapse, the 40-20 kick from Chanel Harris-Tavita into a try from Mudders Curran, who we all love, and then straight after half-time, that Cody Nikorima try from dummy half. That's where Drinky is not playing a lot of fullback and not playing a lot of footy has probably hurt him definitely in that situation.
That's one of the biggest holes I've ever seen through the middle of a pack.
Yeah, that was that period in particular. Like you take that period of a lapse in probably Scott, and you could positioning wise for Scotty Drinkwater on both of those occasions. Yep. That was what sort of cost Cowboys the game. Apart from that, I thought they were the better team. I thought they were better than the Warriors, but the more I watched that game, I was like, the Warriors are hanging in here. I don't want to have a bet on it. It's not a game that interests me.
Shawnee's there.
Yeah, Shawnee's there. I thought, and this is, I know it panned out that way, but when I'm looking at who was going to potentially kick the game, when I was like, man, I feel like there's more match winners on the Warriors side of it.
Reece Walsh should have a proper crack, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Chad's hit a couple in his career.
Chad's hit a couple.
But he doesn't have the biggest boot.
Not
Tommy
into that wind anyway.
Yeah.
Not into that wind. Tommy Dearden doesn't strike me as that sort of player. It's normally Val.
Yeah, Val sort of cruises in,
Yeah, Val's the guy who can sort of come off the wing, a bit like Hollywood Richards. Paddy Richards used to do back in the day for the Tigers, would come in and slot a few from the wing. I know Val was playing centres, but I just looked. I felt like there was more match winners on the Warriors side, considering how they're playing in the halves.
Yeah, Thursday night football. Obviously down there in Canberra, pretty cold in terms of temperature. There's no one worse to go down to from the Cowboys down to the Raiders. Who gets it done?
I think it's going to have the reverse effect on what happened with the Raiders and the Cowboys 3 weeks ago. I think the Cowboys are going to come down, used to the hot weather. It's going to be chilly. Hopefully, it's for Raiders' sake. They'll think it's going to be a little. They'll want it cold. They'll want to take them out of the normal element for the Cowboys, and I think the Raiders can get this one.
When you're not used to humidity and you run in humidity, the air feels real hot. When you're not used to the cold and you run in the cold, the air feels like heavy, like real heavy.
Like fucking, you get knifed.
Yeah, it's yuck.
We played a game at the Raiders when I was at the Eels once, and Steve Kearney goes, "It's a fine if anyone talks about the weather." Like, it was freezing down there, bro. Yeah. It was freezing, and I was like I could tell a few stories off the back of it, but. Yeah, a few of the boys didn't buy into that, and but it's a thing, man. Like, it's a thing you can mentally get it in your head, especially if you're coming from the tropical part of Australia, coming down to
apparently the Cowboys in preseason aren't allowed to say the word hot.
Oh yeah,
yeah, throughout the whole preseason, and I think that's come through when JT and that were all there as well. So yeah, it'd be the other way around. But I did see Chad Townsend's Instagram story, and he had Val on. And come on, bro, it's not that cold. Val's got like his little hoodie on. So
are they already there?
They got there last night because they play 2 days. Today's Wednesday. Yeah. Poor Val, not used to that anymore.
Yeah, it's a good tactic getting down there, getting acclimatised early. Todd Payton knows it well. He's a Canberra junior, so.
All right, Friday night football, Souths versus Bulldogs. Souths performance last week. I feel like they're starting to grow. I'm really starting to see their halfback grow into. What are you smiling at?
Said they're going to start slow and fucking get the shit together once they get the shit together.
Yeah, because they had the draw of doom. They've got a decent. They've had the toughest draw out of everyone.
Yeah, and then the new combinations this flows into. But yeah, what you're saying about Lockie's you're about to say about Lockie. I'm being really impressed by him.
Who does he remind you of anyone? Is he kind of like a Chizzy style when he started out?
Nah, he's a little bit... Bro, he's thick, man. He was at that golf day at Magenta that I played at just before the season started.
How tall would he be?
Probably about your height.
5'10".
6'1". 5'10". But nah, man, he's stocky. He's got more of a Fozzie build, to be fair. He's more of a Fozzie build, but...
Tight hips.
Yeah. good fucking 10-cone shuttle. But yeah, mate, I wrote down 3 guys that were really impressive. Cam Murray, I thought they've got to find a way to keep Cam Murray on the field for 80 minutes. When he comes off the field, they have a real dip. I know it'll be, he's still building into the season, but Cam Murray's been unreal.
Kalyn
Matangi's been fucking unreal. Keon, he was part of the New South Wales, brought into New South Wales camp last year, so Freddie's identified him. His name could get tossed up when that time comes up for sure. Cookie's been unreal the last couple of weeks. I think he's really starting to take advantage of the go forward that the Rabbitohs have been establishing in these last couple of performances. I wrote down in the game though, I said, because both teams completed well first half, which is rare for both of them. They've both not completed well. They both look gassed. And I think then it showed up in the second half when it was an error fest, even though the conditions weren't great. I think both teams weren't used to completing well because they were they were both itching to get to half time. But yeah, and then on to the Dogs.
Yeah, Bulldogs, I thought they were really good. They're going up against I think Kyle Flanagan. I touched on this before the season even started. Halfback is a specialist position, and even though he wasn't in form last year and they got thrown to the Wolves and he's on the outer and you hear all the sort of media speculation, I still think he's their best half option, and I think they looked a lot better. I think Matt Burton was a lot better. Obviously, Matt Duffy having a bit of a down game. I thought Addo Carr that was probably his best game. Yep. Set up a try, line break. He looked, he was breaking tackles. He looked excited. So I think it was an improved performance by the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I read down the Dogs were having a crack, and I brought up a point in 10 of the count. I don't know if you watched it, Ice, but I was talking about Flano. Before the game, I seen Baz talk about him, and he was right and exactly right in what he said about Flano and the way he described Flano. Flano is even though he's a smaller guy, I've always thought Flano had a crack. He's not one of those guys that moves out of the way. Yeah, he gets bumped off every now and again, but he's not one of those. Yeah. He's not one of those players that avoids contact, and I've always respected that about him. And another thing is, he's always going to be his model. And you're right, Ice, when you were talking about this at the start of the year, that I sort of didn't realize last year. With the roster that he had last year, he suits this team so much more. So last year, he would get the boys around the part of the field, and he's not the sort of guy to come up with big plays. He kicks really well. He'll play short. He'll make sure the players are in shape. But last year, he had no X factor. This year, he's got Matty Burton. This year, he's got, Duff when Duff's flying. Josh Addo Carr on the wing, Tavita Pangai. So he does now have the pieces in place to bring out the best in what he does best. And I think he really... Looking at it, playing on the weekend, I was happy for him because at the end of the day, we a lot of the time players, and we stick up for players when they're unfairly criticised. I think he's been put in that position through the last 12 months, and the best thing is the only way you stop it is you come out and have a performance like he did against the champs, Penrith. I love the fact that he sort of ran out with a bit of a smile on his face.
I like
nice and relaxed.
Yep.
I thought that was a great sign straight away. I don't know about looking at the cameras up at the big screen 7 times before. I think players get a bit caught up in that. But the other thing that I loved, Jerome Luai, when he forced the error on Jerome Luai. So if you can remember back to when he was at the Roosters and the Penrith players had a day out against Flano, they really gave it to Flano, and they've been a team that's, when he's on the ground or fucked up, they've really got into him. So I enjoyed him getting back into Jerome because I love that.
Yeah, fucking
I love
sports.
little rivalries.
That's sports.
I love little individual rivalries and team rivalries, and I was happy for him.
I think Jerome Luai would have enjoyed that conversation as
so
well.
do I.
Even though Kyle Flanagan I reckon he got the up on him, to be fair.
Yeah.
Jerome dropped the ball and they scored on him.
Yep.
You'd be in his ear going, whoa.
Yeah,
that's the best part about sports.
He forced an error straight into a kick over the top, and I thought he really brought out. I thought the Bulldogs had a real good crack. I
feel like they got pumped against Melbourne, so they should. But I reckon all the other performances, they've had a red hot crack. But it's just we're kind of getting to that point now. come on, like where's Matty Burton? Is this a fair time to ask that question?
No, not yet. I want to see a little bit more. I just need about 3 or 4 weeks more, especially if he starts to build a nice little combination.
Well, Flanagan. So he's had 3 halves. Yeah, that's the other side.
Yeah, he's had Wakeham. He's had Averillo, who haven't really been able to free him up. He would have gone into that game a little bit reserved in. Oh, fuck this. Here we go. This is my third halves partner. They probably. From all reports, Flano wasn't doing much stuff in the ones in the preseason. It's only because there's been a failure with Averillo at half and Wakeham at half.
Apparently he's been killing it in New South Wales Cup though.
So he wouldn't have linked up with Burton too much. I think once they start to understand each other's game a little bit, I'm not saying that they're a top 8 team, but there'll be improved performances.
They'll get some wins.
Yeah, I think they can jag a couple. Well, they play the Tigers twice this year, hopefully. So,
all right, Souths versus Bulldogs. Obviously, a few changes. Taff comes back in as well for the injured Latrell Mitchell, who's out for 8 weeks, which really hurts. But Taff's a really
I love Taff as a player, man.
Yeah, always has a crack.
Yeah, he's obviously a completely different player to Latrell, but he gives him a different dynamic.
Probably a little bit more involved.
They're going to keep at you a little bit more. I think it'll really open it up a little bit more, even for a guy like Cookie.
I think Cookie will be good, and I think Cam Murray, where they kind of like Jakey and Tommy do their inside ball off ones as well. So I think that'll be a really good play for them as well.
Probably he doesn't bring the outside backs into it as much as Latrell does, because Latrell's that threat out the back that therefore you get wingers hedging their bets and fucking panicking when they see Latrell, that guys like Alice Johnson and Tane Milne will end up going over. But Blake Taff, he's a good replacement, good backup to have, man.
South West Bulldogs, who gets it done?
Souths.
I like that early
close
game.
One though. I think they're going to be a close one.
Yeah.
All
right, cool. Broncos versus Panthers. Obviously, Broncos been a little bit disappointing after a great start to the season. I think Payne Haas is out for 1 week as well. Him and Albert Cully taking the 1-match suspension ban, which I think is a little bit exaggerated. At the same time, story for another time. All your thoughts on the Broncos last week and how did they fix it?
Yeah, they were impressive, man. To be fair, they probably should have won that game.
They had a red hot crack against the Roosters.
I would want to give that a shout out to Selwyn Cobbo for that. Potentially the player of the year, man. Like at this point of the year so far, to get him when he got out of the in goals, just plays like that really lifted team from a team that was a 15-point underdog going into that game against the Roosters. Many thought the Roosters were going to do a number on them.
We were off though.
It's because of efforts like that from Selwyn Cobbo and Katoni Staggs was unreal.
Katoni, what a way to bounce back. Obviously, he's been criticised a lot. Looked a little bit underdone a couple of weeks before. Obviously, he would have been hearing his name in the media and saying like he needs to have a red hot crack, rocked up and put an absolute clinic on Momorowski as well. So but they should have won that game.
Yeah, they should have.
Grateful
they'll be disappointed. I think they're still learning how to win those games, and they're a young team. They've got to. I think in those moments, it's Ren having to teach these younger players, Capewell as well, how to get through some of those big moments, because you can tell they were feeding off the energy. Like they're one of those teams that really feeds off the home ground advantage that they do have at Suncorp. And some of these young guys have come through and they haven't had enough of those efforts be translated into wins at the moment, and they've just got to learn how to get those games. But there are some good signs up there in Broncos. Like I always thought they were going to have a crack in this game. I just had a feeling about it.
Are they kind of in the same mold as the Bulldogs right now? Like got wonderful individual talent, but just haven't quite figured out how to piece it together.
Yeah, and
not only piece it together, convert it into 2 points every week.
Yeah, for sure. And they're probably a year away, and maybe a player or two away each. But Payne Haas, man.
He's out this week, bro, against the big dogs.
Yeah, that makes it really tough for him at Penrith Friday night.
Yuck.
Yeah.
All right, Penrith Panthers obviously got it done. Our boy Nathan Cleary, the best player in the game right now, just signed a contract extension by all accounts. 2027. So, dynasty on the way. Are you feeling that sort of vibe?
Oh yeah. I've sort of been feeling that at the start of the year. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, but I want to talk about Nath. I was watching that game, and I know it's the Bulldogs, and people are going to take this as a big statement, but I grew up in my time of watching the best halfbacks in my time as a fan, because I was born in 86, so I missed Sterlo's years and probably was too young to enjoy Alfie. But when I was growing up, it was like Joey was the fucking king. and then you've got guys like JT when I was playing and Cooper Cronk when I was playing. And when I think of Nath, I think like of those three guys in particular, and I'm pretty sure Joey said it, like Nath could go down as the best of all of them. Like when I think about those three guys, what does he lack? Like when I think of Joey, I always think of, despite how good he was with the ball, I always loved Joey's physicality, like the way he would, if a back row would go one-on-one to Joey would pick him up and fucking put him into the dirt. And he always had that clutch streak about him, like in big moments, obviously thinking about Origin games and grand finals, Joey would come up with the right
from
play.
The sideline.
Yeah, that's what I think about when I think about Joey. And for me, I had Joey as the best. And because I don't know, maybe it was a little bit different because I was a fan when I was watching Joey compared to playing against JT and that. And then when I think about JT, I think about like big moments where shit that would watch in video when we'd be playing Cowboys and then would be standing behind in the in goals talking about, fuck, we said JT was going to do that. How did he still do that to us? He had just moments of like being able to right times of games, break people down. And then when I think about a guy like Cooper Cronk, probably the
structure.
He's just the ultimate game manager.
Professional game manager.
He was never going to wow you with like a grouse flick pace. Probably his kicking game was probably more underrated than what people think. Like those darts kicks that he used to be able to do. Bro, Nath's got them all. Like Nath's got all of their traits. And one of the traits that stood out for me when I was watching the Bulldogs game, and again, I know it was only the Bulldogs, but he does this against fucking big teams as well. He knew he didn't have to have a 10 out of 10. He didn't have to score a try, set up fucking 2 or 3 tries to beat the Bulldogs. He sort of just come into that game with physicality. He put 2 really fucking good shots on Corey Waddell, the back rower, who had a pretty decent game himself. He's carrying the ball pretty hard. But Nath fucking destroyed him 2 times. And he's also got that awareness where, like I said, he doesn't have to necessarily affect the game with highlight flick pass or cut out ball. He can let Jerome do that sort of shit in the left edge. He can just be facilitator and let Isaiah Yao run the middles and just get a win, knowing that probably he's going to save his best effort. You'll see the best of Nath against the Roosters, against Melbourne Storm. That's when when
the finals are
when
on,
it matters, and that's what I noticed when I've been watching Nath of late, and even just like the little combination. This is like elite. When I said for me, if there's one player that's worth $1 million in the forward packs at the moment, is Isaiah Yao. His rotation with him and Nath being able to that try from Liam Martin it looked pretty easy for your average punter because they end up going through a pretty weak defense. But the reason there was so many holes was the last tackle. Nath's running the ball with someone just outside of him. More likely than not, you'd think that's going to be a kick. Nath flicks it out the back to Isaiah Yao, who'd probably be in the position. They almost swap positions where Isaiah Yao would normally be at the front, but because it was the last tackle, he's flicked it out the back to Isaiah Yao. Isaiah Yao's still got shape out the back, by the way, but he doesn't need it because he plays short to Liam Martin. And I just thought that little subtlety in swapping with each other to come up with that play where it looks like an easy try, but not everyone can do that. Not every team can do that. That's like a different connection that him and Isaiah Yao got. And I was just so impressed with Nathan that game.
Yeah, Nath's awesome. And obviously, like, I agree with every sort of statement you've had, and I'll grow up the ultimate Joey fan. So, like, when you watch, do you know what the thing is, bro? We have a tendency to put the past on the pedestal.
Yeah.
So, like, when you ask guys about, like, Wally Lewis versus Joey, like, we'll go, fucking Joey pump Wally Lewis. And then now we're getting a little bit older. It's almost like the Michael Jordan, LeBron conversation or Kobe. We have a tendency to put the past up on the pedestal. But we're witnessing greatness right now.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's very early.
Yeah, for sure. And he's 24 years old, man.
And he's a fucking good bloke
I'm also careful because I look at the grander scheme of things. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but I just like when I'm watching Nath, his progression from when he started to where he is now at 24 years old and what he's done and what he could potentially be. I have a feeling like there's nothing in me that doesn't say he's going to be the best ever by the time it's injuries aside. That's it. That's the only thing that's going to stop him.
And which is a part of football, but he needs to string that like if he can jag another premiership this year, which I think they're pretty much in the hot seat to get it done.
Yeah.
But then he needs to go on that, the Queensland have kind of got that, we got 8 in a row style.
Yeah.
He needs to go on one of those kind of runs because Joey and that never had it.
Yeah.
That's
what separated a lot of people, JT
and Joey. And then you looked at JT's retirement list and all the achievements he'd done Like it was like a massive receipt like this long. So Nath has the opportunity to do that, especially if he can win. Imagine if he can win 3 premierships in a row and maybe jag about 6 Origins back to back. Give it to him. Immortality awaits.
So one part I don't think we talked about at the start that I wanted to talk about as well was Latrell and Turbo potentially missing Origin time.
Ooh.
If Nath goes on and
without him
and wins an Origin with maybe, I dare say Latrell and Turbo will both be right by game 2, but has a really good fucking Origin 1 performance if they're missing, because there are some good young players eventually that we're going to talk about. But yeah, if he can go out and have a big series, like you said, with especially missing those 2 guys to begin with, winning game 1, like I said.
All right, so you're obviously going with the Broncos this week. Panthers get up, rolling into Saturday. The Bird Gang, obviously you're probably a Bird Gang fan at the moment, going up against the Titans. Titans' little comeback performance last week. I thought Manly was special with the exclusion of Tommy Turbo, our little mate DCE.
Yep.
Gave you a bit of a spray in the group chat afterwards, which I really enjoyed. So
yeah, you fucking poked the bear with that. this dickhead, because we're in a group chat with Ches and a few of the old Manly boys, and he gets straight after we finish the show, he goes, "Oh, Scope picked the fucking."
No, you did. Well, you did.
But this is for this show. But where do I put my money? I gotta watch. I'm a live better. I seen the boys were flowing. And that's when I want a bit of fat on it.
I should have tagged Fozzie too. All right, Manly went up against Newey. That was a while ago, It was Thursday. So yeah, thoughts on Manly?
Yeah, I thought Manly's mindset in those conditions. I think I've seen Ches talk about it just before in the interview before he went out. Those conditions, in the way that they played in those conditions, is the way. This is where I'd be more on board with Manly if they adopted that against top 4 teams. Just a mindset of carrying, getting forward early, completing sets. I think Manly, when they play their worst games, they put themselves under a lot of pressure. I thought Ruben Garrick was really good at fullback. I was a little bit questionable with him based off a couple of his performances in the last couple of years playing fullback, but it's a tough ask when you've got to fill in for Turbo. I thought Gaz was unreal. He was real safe. He didn't try to have a Tommy Trbojevic type of game. He just really simplified it. Again, Josh Alawai was fucking standout with his stints. He didn't have the biggest stints this week compared to last week, but I think he's so important. I think
he's their best prop.
For sure. He's the best. Olakuatu, actually. Him and Olakuatu are proper handfuls when they're flowing together. Same thing, though. When he comes off the field, they have a bit of a dip, which is like most teams when their better players come off the field. But yeah, and moving on to the Titans, they're the same thing, man. They're the fucking...
the boy in the water.
The boy in the water.
The boy in the water. Whoever they rock up against, that's how well they're going to play as well. So they're probably getting to that point where that's starting to get a little bit annoying. If you're a Justin Holbrook, if you're a Gold Coast Titans
for sure.
fan.
If you're a part of that Titans
it's
squad.
mad when you're going up against the good sides and competing, but when you go up against the lesser sides and you're still competing at their level, it gets a little bit frustrating, is it? How do they fix that? Or is it just one of their...
I don't know if it's...
Is it one of their growth periods?
Yeah, it's one of their growth periods, and their halves have still got to learn how to develop their game as well. Like, because at the end of the day, 2 or 3 of their tries come off kicks, and then David Fafita fucking dummy half scoot from 50 out. Like, you can't rely on that fucking every week to come up with points. The boys have still got to... I thought, like, they're another one of those teams that... how do you explain it? It's like they wait for... what's the word? I'm trying to find the word. They're trying to invite Parramatta to score enough points for them to relax, and then they come into the game, and then they start playing, because they seem to be one of those teams that really lift when a team starts to dip, or they feel a dip, and then also vice versa. They're not one of those teams when it's going against them, like in the Raiders game, where they go, all right, now we just need to knuckle down, get into an arm wrestle and fight our way back out. They're just the ultimate momentum team, whether it be good or bad. Like, you can see it going either way with them at any point in the game. So they're a fucking awful team to bet on. If you can have a bet, I wouldn't be betting on Titans games at the moment.
Our Warriors, when I was at the Warriors, in our earlier days, we were kind of like this through all our grades, bro. So when the momentum was with us, it was so much fun to be a part of. But when I started to go against you, it was hard to always wrestle back. So, and it's always those really big swings. It's just trying to level up that ship and trying to have a steady performance where they can just get through. And I like you, I think they're sort of going through their halfback sort of puberty. Like they're still trying to grow into being developed halfbacks or Toby Sexton and
halfback puberty. I
yeah,
like that one.
you like that one. So and you know when you're going through puberty and look at it and like he's a weird looking dude at the moment. He's got pimples on his face. I think they're just going through that little phase. And performance wise, you're like, fuck, that's a weird performance for them with the talent they got.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll have sort of off days as well. It's like you're like Caleb. Like some, if you know YKTR, Caleb's our 18-year-old videographer. Some days he's on fire, some days he's taking a sleep upstairs. So
you're right. He's very much like the Titans. Like when he's interested in something, he's ready to go and he fucking goes hard. But when he's not keen, bro, he's not keen. But you know, the interesting one for me is Brimo, man. Like I don't know. There's part of me wants to move him back to fullback. I'd probably give it another 3 weeks, but. It's not because I don't think he can play 6. I just feel like I get so much more out of him with his carries. More touches. He's on the ball more. He pops up a little bit. Like he was one of the players that brought him back into that game. He comes in, he chucks a couple of his short kicking game's pretty good because he's so erratic, right? He gets the ball, he's like, drifting across the field, and then a lot of people that put those kicks in that he puts in kick him dead. But for some reason, he can run at a high click and not stop any momentum. Put a kick in and have nice touch on it. So that's, for me, that's more suited to being a fullback off the back of reactional type plays rather than being a 6 that's got to come up with, everyone on the same page. Because if those kicks, those are the sort of kicks that if they don't come off because he's going so hard and he's sort of one out, when he puts that kick in and if someone scoops it up and beats him, then they can fucking potentially take off and it's a momentum builder the other way, which sort of rolls back into what the Titans are. But yeah, we'll see how the next couple of weeks go.
Interesting game. Who gets it done though? Do you think Manly, with the class of DCE there, with the class of Kieran Foran, there's enough to get it there done?
Yeah, I think they're starting to get the blueprint now how to win these sorts of games. I don't think they'll have to overcomplicate it and come up with a 10 out of 10 performance to beat the Titans. So I think Ches and Fozzie, if they play reserved enough within themselves, I think they can grind out a win against the Titans, knowing that they can do that. And then potentially if they grind early, like we said, Titans are a team that can open up. So I think if they just fucking don't try to overcomplicate it to begin with, I think they can either just, win the game nicely or even run away with it in the end.
You'll sort of find out in the first 20 with the Manly boys where they're at as they were last week.
Yeah, it'll be another live bet for me on the Manly game. I like to see how Manly address the starts of their game. It's a big indication of what's going to happen to them. They're not one of those teams. They're not one of those teams that are like sort of ebbs and flows. If they start awful, they're fucking awful. And if they're good, they're good. They're normally pretty good. So you can get a good read on them straight away in the first 20.
All right, Storm versus Sharks. Obviously going to be the game of the round. Saw Sharks at $3, which is, in my opinion, a bit of a slap in the face. But really looking forward to this game. Obviously, Nico Hines goes back down and goes up against his old team. The battle of the halves is going to be really interesting. Hines, Moylan versus Jerome Hughes, Munster. We'll start on the Storm's performance last week. Obviously, good as always. Pappy doing his thing. Obviously, their spine, it's just crazy to watch. And then you got to think, they've got the longest spine in there because Cheese comes on from the bench. They sort of rotate in between the 9 and 13. Harron Grant, probably the best 9-13 punch in the comp as well. You looking forward to this one?
Fuck yeah. $3 is overs, man.
I think they're plus 7.5.
Plus 7. That's a big start as well. I reckon this is going to be a close one. I give the Sharks a real chance. I'm excited to see
where the Sharks are.
The tactical side of this. Like I've got a lot of respect, obviously, for Bellyache, who's the GOAT in my eyes. And I really like what Fitzy's doing with the. I think he'll come up. I think there'll be a real tactical battle in the way that this game's played, because on paper, there's not much separate. Like the way that the Sharks are performing this year, man. Been really impressed with the Sharks. I think the Sharks, in particular, looking ahead to this game when they're playing against the Tigers. They got caught in the typical Tigers trap. When you play the Tigers, and this is what the Sharks would be filthy on themselves. I know Dale Finucane was speaking at halftime. There's so many fucking gaps when you play against the Tigers that it makes you start to think that there's a fucking big play in order to beat them. And I said, I didn't think the Sharks were going to fall in that trap. They did. Even though they won by 30, they could have won by 50.
I think they had like 14 errors or something like that.
So very un-Sharks-like. Very un-Sharks-like to start the year. I think this is going to be a real possession battle, a tactical battle. They'll be looking for individuals. I think as good as he's gone the last couple of weeks, just knowing what the Melbourne Storm are like. They try to find any little weakness that they can. They'll be throwing a lot at Talakai, Sifa Talakai.
I agree.
I think he's even though he's done a good job on Gags, like we said against the Newcastle Knights.
That's an attack.
This is a different beast with Jerome Hughes, Remus Smith, Xavier Coates coming down that edge. Xavier Coates versus Ronaldo Molotolo is going to be a fucking interesting battle because they normally like to flow down both of those edges.
I wish Talakai was on Justin Olam's side just to see the collision
for the battle.
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse Ramian doesn't fucking.
Nah, he's strong, but
fuck yeah.
But he's like a stop palm kind of strong. You know what I mean? Or rather, like a sort of Justin Hodges where they're not always moving at full pace. They sort of cruise around and use their upper body strength to throw people off. I just want to see that collision between Olam and. I reckon, just random opinion, I reckon Storm might just suffocate him at the game, eh? Because I know,
look at the team.
Sharks are getting up for it. I know they're getting up for this, but this is just another day in the life for the last 20 years for the Storms. All right, there's a team that's in form, that's coming up, that's got up to come play us down in Melbourne. I reckon Storm might pump them.
I don't think so. I'm leaning towards the Sharks for 7.5. I think it's going to be close.
What about head to head? Sharks.
It's hard to get. It's too hard. It's like betting against Brady in the NFL. Like, you know, I don't think they're as invincible as they were in the past couple of years. That's what I wrote that down as I was watching the game.
The Storm look forward to big games as well.
Yeah, for sure. They would have been thinking about this game. They not as much as the Sharks would have been looking forward to this. Like, Storm is such a well-run franchise now that they genuinely are at the point now where everyone's biggest game is either the Storm and probably the Panthers of the last couple of years for everyone else. So Storm will be used to this sort of stuff. Even though they'll be seeing the Sharks, they'll be more like, it's time to shut these cunts up. You know, like that'll be their mindset. But they would have been more focused on the Raiders were for their respective game rather than what the Sharks would have been for the Tigers.
Yeah, I don't reckon Melbourne Storm are looking forward to looking ahead to the Sharks till roughly about like a Tuesday, Wednesday, where they've gone through their game, like learned the lessons from the video, recovered, where I feel like the Sharks, the interviews were happening for Nick Hine straight after the game. He goes, yep, you're going up against Melbourne Storm. I think they might have played this game a little bit too early.
I love how, but even seeing Dale speak, I like the honesty that Nico's. He knows. This is going to be a good game, man. The more I'm just looking at the lineups and it's sort of throwing me off a little bit because I'm like, fuck, this is such a good battle. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I think 7.5 is too much. I think it's going to be a close one, but probably Melbourne just edge them out.
Yeah, I think so too.
And just again, like you mentioned him, Present, Jerome. Fuck, man, they're playing so well together.
So is Matty Moreland and Hines, though.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great to see Matty Moreland like back in form. And
Matty's taking those short sides that are available. That's his bread and butter, man. That's that touchback round. When you see when you see an overlap in touch, it's normally a 2-on-1 in touch to come down with that link sort of role with the winger. If you're a middle and you expose a link or a winger in touch, same sort of thing. 3-on-2 down the short side, Matty Moreland, game over.
Yeah, I'll see Dale Finucane and guys who are very well respected within that Storm organisation roll back in. So I think everyone's going to be excited for it. It's going to be sort of a finals.
It will be a finals type atmosphere, I reckn, this game.
Round 5, so grateful for that as well. Yeah. All right, guys, before we do continue, this podcast is also brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. Please use our code ICE or Scopes1 SCOPE. Use mine, ICE, a little bit easier. 20% off. Free shipping, look after the pubes. I like the flow of our sponsors for all this. Obviously, look after the balls with the Manscaped. Use the code, jump on, Steady Freddy, get the premature ejaculation cream, stop you from coming a little bit too early. Straight after, but a BSC.
Yep.
And then have a punt on beat you.
Yeah, grouse. Can you chuck us the roll on too? I haven't chucked some deodorant on this morning. We've got the Manscaped. This has got the new roll on as well. Don't forget the roll on ice. They've got the new deodorant and the spray can. Cool
packaging. I like it. Shampoos.
What about Caleb used my roll on the other day?
That's weird, isn't it?
That's weird.
Is that like using a toothbrush?
Yeah, that's not fucking 6 again.
He's a weird kid, old Caleb.
I'm only kidding. I said that on 10 out of 10 to throw him off. While he was going like this. He was on the buttons where Lukey was. He's going. I said, yeah, you did. You used it.
He is a weird kid. We like weird around here.
Fuck yeah.
All right, guys. Isaac John Cup, Roosters versus the Warriors, 4 in a row. Obviously, throw back to the 2000. These are Jackson's notes. Going back to 2002, the grand final. Obviously, a wonderful time of like my life when the Warriors come into the comp 95. They started to develop a team 2000. The uniforms. It's nostalgic for me. Obviously, going against them this week, but really like the like the 20 years since that's happened, and that was a wonderful time. Is when I really got into football, seeing guys like Stacey Jones and NRL and Weta Gunside, Henry Farfeely, the OG entertainers. Used to offload the ball around. They called it champagne football. So brings back a lot of memories. But going up against the Roosters, Roosters performance last week. Me and Lick were down at the pub and obviously fucking blind, but found a way to get it done. Obviously relying on Joey Manu a lot. Haven't quite pieced our team together, have we, Scope?
No, I don't think so. And one of the things I wrote down during this, when I was watching the game, I said, Roosters are missing the steal this year. Now it's starting to show up with Boydie and Friendy in those big, I know Broncos wasn't a big game, but big moments in games. Just having that reliable guy there that might take a tough carry, or they've still got Jared in that position.
He's carrying us in the pack, I think.
Yeah, Jazz is still there, but I think it's, Jazz is going to become one of those props with the way that the game's going, like even with a few of the little niggly plays that he's gone, like is that player in particular, like that standover sort of
Josh
middle.
McGuire.
Yeah, I think that plays leading the game as well. I think the game, when you look at guys like young forwards that are coming through, Payne Haas, who just doesn't say anything, gets through a shitload of work, doesn't carry on, but he's just always there. Like players like Jazz who want to try to intimidate with like a leg pull and standing over someone and get in front of the ref the way that he does. Like, it's just typical Jared. Like, it is what it is. It's fucking served him well throughout his career. But that sort of player could be gone. And like now he's sort of like the last of his crew left. Like he's like come through with Boydie, come through with Friendy, and always had those guys to rely on. And they've done a good job of blooding players. Like obviously Rads is the future. Angus Crichton's still an elite edge back row. I thought he made a real difference when he come on the field.
Why is he on the bench, you reckon?
I think it's
just to balance the side when all the big, like when Jared and that go off, or
Robbo wasn't getting enough out of him. I thought that was his best performance of the year. He's one of those players, like he's a luxury piece again for me, Angus Crichton, because like when you look at it, like compared to a guy like the way Boydie Cordner was so reliable, like he didn't have to have that attacking flair, bump a few people off. Like even though Angus Crichton come on and change the games with his carries and that, guys like Boydie, Mitch Orbison were really reliable defenders, and I don't know if Angus Crichton is that sort of edge back row for him. But yeah.
Found a way to get it done with
they
Roosters
found
boys.
a
clutch kick from Sammy as well, Sammy Walker. Yeah, we just haven't quite pieced it together, have we?
Yeah, they're still figuring themselves out, and they're coming up against a Warriors team. I wrote down I had to go back and look at the stats as I was watching the game. I was like, Warriors have hung around in every game this year. That's what, lost, even though they lost
the loiterers.
They're just always thereabouts. Like, and they're not like a team that's like they're not like the boy effect either. They're not like a team that's they're actually competing and hanging into games. The worst performance was against the Tigers, which is an ugly watch. It was hard to get that out of your head. But apart from that, all the other games, considering that they're missing Shawnee, Reece Walsh for the first game and then Shawnee for the second game, since they've got Shawnee and Walshy back together, I think they're only going to get better. And then they'll give themselves a chance in this game again, based off what the Broncos did in the game. And I think Sunday afternoon, if the weather's all right, I think that'll suit the Warriors a little bit more as well. They'll hang around for a little bit and make this interesting.
We'll be in the crowd, Scope.
Yeah, might go down and watch that game. Yeah, for sure. Sort of tickets for us?
Yep.
Lovely.
Tickets. Message Robbo and that.
Joey Manu, man.
Freak.
Holy. Obviously, it's obvious. Joey Manu doesn't play that game.
They lose.
They lose, might lose by a bit. Like, fucking hell. Poor, same again. I love watching the Channel 9 commentary. Some people don't like it. I love listening to Fatty and that. I don't know, a bit from the old school with that sort of stuff. I love Fat's sense of humour. And he goes, when Fat goes, Paul Momorowski's 0 from 10. Katoni did an absolute number on him. I'm wondering, like, when I'm speaking about Mommers, actually, I know Joseph Sawali's been playing a fair bit of New South Wales Cup. I know.
How well has he been going?
I haven't seen his form line. I don't know. There hasn't been much chat about him, which has been interesting.
Do you want to feel old, Scope? I was jumping on Sawali's Instagram today.
Yeah.
We rolled past and it was his mum's 40th birthday today.
Fucking hell.
He's like, happy birthday, mum, 40th. And I was like, oh, shit, we're feeling old here.
We are getting old, yeah. But yeah, I'd have Joey back in the team.
Yep. Yeah, I think Momorowski's got a big performance this week. Obviously, when you were talking to all the Roosters boys, they've all got massive raps on him. They reckon his rugby league IQ is really great. He's the type of guy that potentially can roll into coaching a little bit later in his career, or once he's done, sorry. So
he would have felt like coaching after fucking what Katoni did to him.
Yeah, and apparently he's got really good IQ when it comes to edge defense, knows everything about the game as well. But then sometimes on edge defense, it's just a one-on-one tackle.
Yeah.
When you're going up against someone like a Tony Staggs, it's a little bit tough, doesn't it?
He's a good dude, man. We spent a bit of time. Did you see Momorowski went up in Byron a couple of years ago?
I wasn't there.
Same thing. We had talked a bit of footy while we were up there, man. Yeah, he knows his footy. He's a really good guy. I can see why people warm to him because he's a good kid. But I'm thinking more long term, and I think Joseph Suwali's the future for the Roosters. So I'd be looking to get him in, whether he comes in on the wing. I know Kevin Nguama's there. Whether they have a battle for that wing spot, Momorowski and Kevin Nguama.
Sammy Verrills comes back into the mix as well.
Yeah, that's a big in.
Drew Hutchison, I think, has been awesome in the 9 jersey. Obviously, when you're not a 9 and you're a halfback, kind of feels like a bit of a demotion sometimes. But he's been awesome for us. But I think Sammy Verrills was a out-and-out hooker. It's going to be really interesting and gives us, the Roosters, a bit of a different look and probably frees up Connor. I thought Connor Watson was great last week when he jumped on.
Yeah, he
running
was.
game. Everything just started to flow through the middle when you build momentum. And, yeah, we've got enough class to get shit done as well.
Who did he bring on? So it was Angus Crichton. Was it Fletcher Baker that come on with Angus Crichton all at the same time? Yeah, it was. Yeah, because then there was Mudders Hutchison. So Connor Watson, Angus Crichton, and Fletcher Baker, they really come on and change that game. Fatty even said it in the commentary. They come on with like 2 or 3 big carries and really turn the game on its head.
We need a big prop over the next couple of years. I know, like, you think Takiaho's coming towards the end of it.
He's going to Super League next year.
Super League, I think so. Isaac Luge left as well. Jared's probably like 30. He's same age as me, bro. 33. He's getting older. Need like a Payne Haas or someone.
You want Haas, Bardo.
We want Haas.
Everyone wants Haas.
Yeah, and obviously Sonny Bill's got that link there, so hopefully he comes down. And he's asking for $1 million. I reckon Roosters about to give him $850 and top him up on the side and a bit of YKTR gear. Why not? Eh?
Second YKTR athlete?
Maybe.
All at the Roosters? Are you just going to recruit all Roosters players?
Hey? Nah, do you know what sponsor I'd want? The one up the top on the shoulders. I think that's IC up there at the moment. So, yeah, Robbo, get rid of IC, get YKTR on. All right, obviously Roosters or Just in the close one. The Sunday Arvo. The boys going to be in the crowd. A few beers deep. Got the binoculars out. Watching.
Fuck it. Come on, the Waz.
4 in a row. If they win 4 in a row.
Waz in a close one and yeah.
Shout out to Waz social media team. Obviously doing great things. I think they're the best social media team in the game right now. Man. So much effort they put in. Is Timmy still running that? Yeah, so shout out to Timmy. He's probably the best content creator in the game right now.
Yeah.
In the NRL.
A copied Scope song too. And
what was it?
That the Edamame song. Have you seen it? That's all right. Anyway.
All right, Dragons versus Knights. Dragons performance last week, obviously going down and down. Tyrone Sloan still misses out this week, which is a little bit confusing to me. Knights put up a decent effort against Manly, but fell short. Probably not the most exciting game, but where we at, Scope?
Yeah, Dragons are going backwards for me. So we wrote in the group chat, I said I was trying to get a read. I was like, fuck, Normie, what's your shape at the Dragons? Because there's like when I watch a Dragons team, you can see
Doze is off the top of the dome though.
Pardon? Yeah,
Benny Hunt.
is,
yeah.
But you still like Doze is good enough to have structure and then be able to play outside of it, play what he sees, and he does that really well at times. But I just feel like with the way that the team is set up at the moment, there's just like, yeah, they're going backwards. They're reverting back to old bad habits. I think they've had one win. I read
13 or 14
13
or something.
4. So like they got me a beauty in preseason, the Dragons, with the performances they had in the what do they call
first
that?
Couple games? Charity Shield.
Charity Shield against the Rabbitohs. Get the kids back in there, man. Tyrell Sloan's playing reserve grade with Bud Sullivan come back on the weekend.
Cool.
That was good to see Bud come back playing footy. It's tough watch, man, watching the Dragons play against that, especially in the second half when Souths weren't playing all that great themselves. The Souths were a lot with the better team, and it was obvious that they were the better team, but they were given the Dragons plenty of opportunities to get back in the game. The Dragons just didn't want it. Just giving it back to them, like tossing it back. I know the conditions weren't great, but got to be better. Like there are a lot of veterans in that team, man. A lot of good players.
Where's Birdie's best position?
Back row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Jaden Sewer. I think Jaden Sewer's probably been their best buy so far.
Man, So I'd have like Josh Kerr's front row. I'd still bring Josh Kerr off the bench. I'd put Bomber. I'd put Jack DeBellin in the front row. In this day and age, with this game is him and Francis Molo with their footwork and aggression. Like physically, you don't lose anything. Like even though they're smaller front rowers, would be smaller front rowers, you don't lose too much. Chuck Birdie in the middle where he can still have that ability to impact the game on either side of the field, whereas when you lock him in as 6, he sort of stays on that side. And
you have to. It's kind of like the Bremo conversation.
Yeah.
But he's not a fullback where he can plug in at the 13, have an effect on the game, tough enough to be there, where Bremo can obviously have the effect from the back.
Yeah.
Very similar.
And if you want, just say if you don't see, if Birdie doesn't want to play lock, play him edge back row and put Tarek in the middle. Like, because you know you're going to get you get physicality out of Tarek as well. Like that, the forward pack just needs to be
moved around a bit.
Around a little bit.
Yeah, I think Josh Kerr to the bench. I think I agree with you.
Telltale Amon into 6. Bring Bud Sullivan into 14. Put Tyrell Sloan back at fullback.
Fulmuano's been named on the reserve, so he can't be too far off. Sullivan's there as well. Sloan. They've still got some good back rowers.
Man, this squad's not too bad.
They've got a good squad.
I feel like they just got to get it right. You know.
I think they just need to jag a win and build some confidence off that. They sort of. Once the Sharks smacked them a couple of weeks ago in the rain, they haven't quite recovered, have they?
Yeah. And they get a chance against the Knights.
Knights, thoughts?
They get a chance against the Knights. I think the lack of creativity, that the question marks that we had on the halves at the start of the year are starting to show now. So when they had momentum again, like I said at the start of the show, there are so many teams that rely on it. When you don't have because there's premium halves, not every team has them, and Newcastle's one of those teams that outside of it, when you see a guy like KP coming in, jumping in at dummy half to put a little kick in for Chris Randall, ended up being a no try, but like KP's trying to get himself involved in that sort of way. It's like that's not the best way to use KP, even though it should have been a try. Chris Randall should have scored the try, and it would have brought Newcastle back in the game. I think that would have drew the game up. He's just he's not able to get the good ball that he's used to in years past with Piercy and Blake Green. And
you watch him in Origin, and like you look at someone like KP who's like a wonderful player and in clubland, but when you get the higher the game gets, he always seems to play a little bit better because the talent around you is better. And when he's getting clean looks off Munster.
That's a great point.
And DCE, right? He just looks so much more elite.
That's a great point. And when you think about, because he's starting to get criticised now, obviously negotiations,
contract negotiations.
The contract negotiations don't help. So Newcastle fans are starting to get the shits with him a little bit. But whenever you think about Kalyn Ponga's performances, always think about when you put the right pieces around him, what sort of player KP is. He just can't affect the games the way that he wants to right now with the roster that they got. So that could entail him, moving on because of this. Like if they don't sort out that half situation, they need to find a half. They need to find another half that's going to be a solid half.
There's a few clubs that need to find a half.
Yeah.
And these guys are one of them. Yeah, and like when you're a half, like you can jag a game together. Like, the Iceman scored a hat-trick one day. You know what I mean? Yeah, against the Wales. We pumped it by 64, scored a hattie.
Fuck.
So like you can have your days in NRL. Like they're saying every dog has, and I think those boys have had some really good games early on. But now it starts to get to the grind of the NRL. It's round 5 now. The weather's starting to get like a little bit colder. You're going up against better teams. It starts to get like monotonous and just doing the same shit over and over.
Yeah.
And that's what separates the guys like Nathan Cleary who enjoy being in those types of situations. So yeah, interesting game. Where are you going?
I'm just looking where it's at. I know it's at the Dragons, but it's at win on Sunday.
I think Dragons get it done, bro. Josh Maguire named to return.
Same thing. It's gonna rely. Oh, Josh Maguire's. Did you say
he's been
If Josh Maguire plays, if he gets his shit together and puts Tyrell Sloan and Bud Sullivan in, I'll be leaning towards the Dragons. But if he keeps it as is again, I'm going the Knights. Just like I said, remember last week I said I'm going to see what the team, if he stays to the team. So I ended up having a bet on South and obviously fucking killed it with that bet because I just think as the roster is right now, I don't see many wins from that team.
All right, last game, Easter Monday. I always enjoy this game. It's one of the big ones. They used to have it at ANZ and used to knock up about 50K there. So really interesting Easter game. Parramatta Eels going up against the West Tigers. Obviously, do you want to be touching on West Tigers? Should we give them a skip? They've had some bulk of changes.
Yeah, I just read.
Brooks moves to 5'8", Hastings returns. 4 have been dropped, including Tyrone Peachy, who's one of their 5 captains.
And Cam
Mamalo, he's been dropped as well. So a few people move around. James Roberts comes back in. Bit of a shit show at the moment. And I know when you're in those situations and you're trying, you play for a wooden spoon team. Scope.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just no answer to it, eh?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because so Joey got asked just before halftime, I think by Cam Smith, who was there, or maybe I think Billy Slater was there, actually. He asked Joey, he goes, what would you say to them at halftime? Joey was fucking rattled. Like, he's like, and I was trying to think to myself, like,
what would I say in that
situation? In my position, at Glenmore Park head coach, captain coach, assistant coach at Glenmore Park, what would I say to the boys? Fuck, there's honestly nothing. I couldn't come up with anything. And I wrote down, if we're talking about the Tigers and we've been ripping into them, plenty of people have been ripping into them. Constructive criticism. I always try to look for constructive criticism, and I just don't have any for the Tigers at the moment. Like, one of those old sayings, if you don't have anything good to say about someone, don't say it.
No,
Yeah, it's sort of like that with the Tigers at the moment. I don't have the answers. I don't see the answers in their roster as it currently stands. I don't see the answers in their coaching, in their where they're at the moment. So
when you're a fan and you're looking at the admin, there's admin, there's coaching, there's players. One of them has to change. If you're a fan, you're looking at it, there's 3 parts of stakeholders within the business. Where is it? You can't really change the players because a lot of them are logged into longer term contracts. And obviously Luke Brooks is the talking point right now. There's coach and there's admin. So you got to get rid of one of those two. And it all starts from the top.
Luke Brooks is having a bit of a crack.
I think so too.
He was having a crack on the weekend. He's throwing his body in front of, I think one stood out on Hamlin Uali right near the line.
Yeah, got him and knocked the ball out.
Fucking knocked the ball out. Like, he's having a crack. He's just like, the roster it's just not there.
It doesn't look fun, football, when you look at someone.
And it'd be so hard going into like games where, like I said, I've played in, even though we won the wooden spoon, there was still more in our team than there fucking ever was. Like, I had guys like Hindy in the squad, Fui, Hainsey. There was still, like, when you look around the team, this team's worse, man. Like, this team, the way that it's constructed right now, there's not many. I feel sorry for Luciano Leilua. I feel like he has a crack every week.
He's cruising now. He's got a little three-yearer.
Yeah, but he's still having a crack. He's still having a dig. He carries with force. He tries to offload. He defensively picked someone out and carried them over the line. And this is what stood out to me. This is how you know when you're in a bad team. Unreal effort. I could forget who he took out. He's picked someone up and carried them over the touchline. And out of all the players, he's the player that's having a proper crack out of it. And you can see there's a clear difference between his efforts and a lot of the other boys for me. And no one come over and like patted him on the back and shit like that. Like, it was like, that's a moment for the players to come over and feed off a guy who's been your best. Like, you come over, that's how you get yourself back into games and you get a bit of feeling about the game. And no one come over and patted him on the back. He walked over. He wasn't even that stoked. He's like, yeah, whatever. That's just what I've been doing. Like, so anyway, on to Para.
Eels, good side. I'm
a believer.
Do you know? I was thinking about this the other day, and when I think about back on like Manly, Melbourne, like that was kind of like the rivalry back in the day. Then we roll into the 10s where it was always, the Broncos, Cowboys.
Yeah.
I see the Penrith Parramatta rivalry starting to amp up over the next 3-4 years. And these games are always going to be close. They're going to be won by a drop goal or won by a kick from the sideline. I can see this beautiful period for Western Sydney coming up where it's going to always be, and they're going to be playing at the same stadium soon. Penrith Stadium's getting knocked down, so they're going to be playing at a Bank West every week. It's going to be interesting, and they're real big fan bases as well, where it probably can get to a point where it's like football or soccer, where half the stadium is blue and white and half it's black. It's going to be really interesting, and they've both got the squads to win competitions right now. You got the 2 best halfbacks, or some of the best halfbacks in the game. Nathan Cleary, number 1. Claire, number 1. Mitchell Moses on the rise as well. You got Jerome Luai versus Dylan Brown. I think that's starting to even up a little bit more as well. I think there's a real interesting period coming up, and Eels got to get a job like this done though, don't they?
And the battle of the 2 fittest fullbacks in the competition, and Gutho and Dylan Edwards.
Yeah, I actually shout out Dylan Edwards, man. He's been doing his thing. I think he's got like 100 more meters on average than everyone else.
He's a weapon, man.
Yeah, and he probably does. Like,
he doesn't get the raps that he deserves.
But we're really in the star-studded fullback era, aren't we? Tommy, Pappenhausen, Latrell. It just sort of falls into the thing.
Who else did you say?
Tedesco. Yeah, there's too many good fullbacks, man.
Will Kennedy.
Reece Walsh is a glamour.
Walshy, Ponga.
Ponga. Oh, is this the game? Is it?
This game coming up against Tigers.
Fuck, that's a dick move. So this is Lucas just said off camera, this is the first game where it's sold out only to Para fans, which is fucking mad in my opinion. Oh, West Tigers fans aren't rocking up anyway. But it's kind of like a dick move, isn't it? It's a Para move. I like it.
Yeah, Tigers fans travel. They still travel, but this is going to be big. Anyway, Para, yeah, they're flowing now. They've got a really good rotation. One of my concerns with Para over the last couple of years is they get a bit too pass happy in the middle. I think they've really identified that, and they seem to have done a really good job out of it. Regan Campbell-Gillard isn't doing it anymore. He's just worrying about his carries getting forward. Junior's doing it at a higher click. Physically, them two in particular, are they the best rotation right now? Fisher Harris and
Matt Eisenhuth. They put on a clinic last week. I think needs to just a little bit better.
Yeah, I'd probably still have them over them. Yep. Not individually, probably Fisher Harris I'd have over either of them, but as a combo, Payne Haas. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the elite middles. Who the other big teams? Melbourne, Jesse Bromwich and Nelson.
Nelson comes off the bench though. So
no, he starts now. Nelson's been starting for the probably all this year. Yeah, they're up there. Anyway, and they're playing really well. I think the way that their forwards are linking together off the back of Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses, they're in really good nick as well. Gutho, man, Gutho is fucking everywhere at the moment.
The king.
Even though I love Gutho, I played with Gutho, it wasn't until when I had that conversation with Prez about speaking about Gutho that I really noticed it. Just how he turns up everywhere. It's just one of those things. It's like you've just come to expect it, that you take it for granted when you watch it. But once someone who's in the game and so respect whose opinion I respect, like Munster says how good Gutho is, is going to get ugly for the fucking Tigers, man.
You reckon? I reckon they might turn up for this game. Obviously, there's going to be a big crowd there. Maybe he's got a couple guys out. Wanga Blake's injured. Murata comes back in. Junior's down for a suspension for 1 week for that sort of high contact. So I reckon the Tigers going to have a red hot crack. I don't think it's going to be the blowout that we all expect.
I reckon the Tigers are going to have a red hot crack and still get beaten by 40.
Here you go, Escape.
Well, if I'm going, I reckon they're going
to win. I think that's us. Oh, guys, dropping merch tomorrow. We're Wednesday. Dropping merch tomorrow, including this piece right here, 6 o'clock Thursday. Look after yourself. I think I'll get you to do PBJ. I won't have time today.
All right. Do you want me and Simi to do it tomorrow?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. You want to do that tomorrow? Me, peanut butter and jam with Simi. That way I get to look at the teams a little bit more and break it down.
Or you can hold one on your own if you want to as well.
Just either or.
Do a little.
I'll get him on for a giggle. He can come on with us. He can just do like a big fuck off multi for a giggle, and I'll do all the breakdown stuff.
All right, cool, sounds good. All right, guys, Thanks for tuning in. Happy Easter. Look after yourselves on the long weekend. Go the Roosters.